Quite ironically and predictably, Canada's technical Prime Minister Mark Carney has done something very anti democratic on the eve of the federal election he's about to call. Remember the Liberal MP from the riding of Napean in the Ottawa area who tried to run for the Liberal Party leadership, Chandra Arya? Well, not only was he eventually kicked out of that leadership race for daring to seriously challenge the King, Mark Carney, but now he is no longer even the Liberal candidate for the riding of Nepean. And guess who is? It's King Mark Carney. I want to break this story down because it's so ridiculous and so thoroughly corrupt. And I actually believe it could end up biting Mark Carney in the butt because a lot of people are now encouraging Chandra Arya to run as an independent in Nepean just to mess over Carney in his bid to actually win a seat in Parliament. But before I get into it, guys, I just want to remind you if you want to keep up with my election coverage, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment to help us out in the algorithms. I really appreciate it ahead of time. Anyways, so a couple of days ago, Chandra Arya had announced that he was no longer the Liberal candidate for Nepean. He posts this email after saying, well, it's been deeply disappointing and I've loved representing this riding. And I would like to mention, as he mentions, he's been the MP since 2015. He's not exactly someone who just became the MP like yesterday and maybe he hasn't proven himself. He was apparently good enough for the Liberal Party in 2015, 2019, and 2021, and only recently has he become, I guess, inconvenient. But here is the email excerpt that he posted and even ended up blacking out a couple of people's names. And he says, Dear Chandra, or at least the email says, I am writing on behalf of the National Campaign Co-Chair, who has conducted a thorough review of your eligibility to serve as a candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada in the riding of Nepean. After careful consideration, yeah, sure, they carefully considered, based on a review of new information by the chair of the Green Light Committee, the National Campaign Co-Chair is recommending the revocation of your status as a candidate. Unfortunately, based on that recommendation, your status as a candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada has been revoked. I appreciate that this news will come as a disappointment to you and your campaign team. Sincerely, Andrew Bevan. Wow, well, that was cold. And just conveniently enough, Mark Carney happened to think it was an interesting riding within the next 36 hours and decided to jump on it. Or they just preemptively planned this because it's a decently safe Liberal riding. It's in the Ottawa Laurentian Valley area, so it's, I guess, a good area, good soil for Mark Carney. And Chandra Arya, again, like I've said before, he dared to challenge King Mark Carney in the leadership race. Ezra Levant from Rebel News has already pointed out just how sketchy the Liberal Party leadership race results are. And it's really kind of sketchy for two reasons. One, he basically pointed out that the Liberal Party leadership race results are almost statistically impossible. He fed them into Grok, and it showed that the stats, because every single riding in the Liberal Party leadership race was extremely close. The results in one riding almost looked exactly like the results from the next riding. It doesn't matter if Bayliss and Gould only get 3% each and Freeland gets 8. You're expecting that there's going to be a riding where Freeland gets 16 and Freeland gets 3 and Freeland gets 5 and then a few where she gets her average. And yet, when you go through all of the ridings, it's basically within a couple of points, everyone's stats look the exact same. Doesn't matter if it's a French riding, an Anglophone riding, doesn't matter if it's more Indigenous, doesn't matter if it's more minority. For some reason, Carney is universally at around 68 or what is it? Actually, more like 89%. Or it's like whatever it was, like 86%. He's at around that point everywhere. Even Freeland in her own riding is only at 11%, which is insane because you would assume a bunch of people are going to sign up just to vote for their guy because naturally you're probably going to like your own person. But apparently not, and I guess everyone, and even Chrystia Freeland's own family, hate her because she was only able to get 181 votes in University Rosedale as Carney absolutely steamrolled her with like 1,100 votes. Absolutely insane and unbelievable. And then the second way that the race was rigged was the fact that it was just not a real race. Do you think Freeland was trying to win? Do you think Karina Gould was trying to win or Frank Bayliss? Each of them suspiciously barely fundraised any more money than they absolutely needed to get into the race. You need $350,000 to get into the race. I believe all of them maybe raised upper 300,000s or maybe into the 400,000s, but that's it because they are stalking horse candidates just to stay behind Carney and let him win by a big margin. And because Chandra Arya and another candidate, Ruby Dalla, were actually seriously trying to generate some energy and sell memberships, although the memberships are free, but register people for memberships. That's why they were given the boot. And by the way, because Mark Carney is anti democratic, he then holds on to their $350,000 buy ins and just tells them to go pack sand. Absolutely ridiculous. And now there's a couple other reasons that people have brought up for why they may have gotten rid of Chandra Arya. And the first one, which I just frankly reject, is the idea that there were some foreign interference concerns around Chandra Arya, which might be true, but do you think the liberals care about that? If they did, they would have gotten rid of someone like Chandra Arya a long time ago. And frankly, they would have probably gotten rid of about 2 dozen of their other MPs because the Liberal Party is absolutely awash in foreign interference and foreign influence. And so I just don't buy it. They wanted to get rid of him because he challenged the king. And then my other explanation, which sounds very shallow because it is that they wanted to get rid of the Hindu guy. He's like the only Hindu MP in the Liberal Party, and the Liberal Party is absolutely controlled on the minority outreach level by Khalistani Sikh separatist fundamentalist guys who even the Sikh community doesn't like, but somehow they're able to convince people in political elite circles that they know how to do outreach. And because Chandra Arya was never anti-India, I think that's also why they're getting rid of him. Ridiculous. But now I just want to go over some of the rollout that happened on this. It ended up making the whole thing seem like really dictatorial. So you can see here when they basically had confirmed that he's running, it says Mark Carney to run for seat in Ottawa's Napean riding, sources. And then later, to get ahead of the story, the Liberals then post this saying, Ottawa is where Mark Carney raised his family, devoted his career to public service. I thought that was London, and has always given back to the community, and always gave back to his community. We're thrilled to announce that our leader, Mark Carney, will be our candidate for Napean in the next election. Together, we will build an even stronger Canada. Okay, well, that's weird. Why didn't he want to run in Edmonton Center? They also kicked out Randy Boissonnault, who I believe the most deeply negatively affected person in all this is the other Randy Boissonnault, who was involved in all the corruption that Randy was blamed for. It was other Randy, get that straight. He was the one involved in corrupt healthcare companies, not Randy Boissonnault, the former minister and former MP here, or he's about to be a former MP in probably 24 hours. But my goodness, this entire thing has looked like a dictator rolling into a country and turning it into a banana republic. Gets into politics for 5 seconds, they run a fake leadership race to install him, they kick out anyone who seriously challenges him, even revoking their place as a Liberal candidate, and now he is calling a snap election before anyone figures out anything about him so he can try and ride the wave of anti-American Canadian patriotism, hoping that people will vote for him just based on that. Now, I just quickly want to look at the actual chances that Carney has in Napean, because this could actually end up being a big mistake for him. Yes, the 338 Canada page currently shows Napean as a likely Liberal seat. It shows that he has like a 99% chance of winning, and the Conservatives a 1% chance of winning. By the way, guys, if you live in the Ottawa area, make sure you go check out the Napean Conservative candidate. I'm going to be linking her in the description below so that you can go help her out in that area, because I'd love for you guys to hit every single door in that riding 3 or 4 times over and make sure that Carney doesn't even win. But this is what the stats say right now, and this is based on what I would say is very overheated Liberal polling. Before, literally just a month ago, the Conservatives were actually favored to win this riding. And I mean in like February, they were the favorite to win this riding. It's been a very quick turnaround to the Liberals now being ahead and actually doing better than they did in the 2021 election. So I don't really believe it. And by the way, I'm not sure if I've mentioned this yet, Chandra Arya might run as an independent. there are a lot of people out there encouraging him to run as an independent. And mark my words, there are probably a lot of people in the Liberal Party disgusted enough by how the Liberals rolled out this candidacy for Mark Carney that Chandra could probably get 5, 7, 8%. Obviously not going to win, but probably enough to end up eating into Carney's polling by about 3 or 4 points and making it easier for the Conservative to win. So, Chandra Arya, if you're watching this, I fully encourage you to make your dream come true of running as an independent in Napean just to mess over Mark Carney, because he absolutely deserves it. He doesn't care about democracy, so why should you? Anyways, and now I just also want to jump over to Carleton to demonstrate the difference between a riding that's likely conservative and what an actual safe seat looks like. No matter how much the Liberals have supposedly been tightening up. Look, Carleton is still 53% conservative, 33% projected for the Liberals. Even if they wildly assume the Liberals overperform, they will still lose. This is what a safe seat looks like. So I'm saying that this is very realistic. When it says Carney has a 99% chance, that is based off very, very rose-colored polling that's been coming out recently, because as much as I don't like the NDP, I don't think they're only going to end up at 9%. I think the very hard left socialistic people who are voting Carney in these polls because they hate Polyev will eventually realize that he's not their cup of tea, and they'll go back to voting for that loser Jagmeet Singh in the NDP. And by the way, one thing that Jagmeet Singh actually did today that was kind of smart, I kind of got to respect the play, was that he actually marketed himself as the only man, or at least the man running the only party that hasn't been endorsed by Donald Trump. Check out this post, because this is one thing by Jagmeet Singh that's kind of political savvy from the perspective of who the Singh NDP are trying to win. It says right here, "We're gearing up to fight for you and the things that will make life better for you and your family. Our campaign bus will be making its way across the country, connecting with everyday people on the issues that matter most: healthcare, housing, and affordability. Stay tuned on our socials to see where we'll be next. Maybe we'll be in a community near you." And it says down here, the only federal leader who hasn't been endorsed by Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Kind of funny. That's actually a kind of funny thing to do if you're trying to win extremely anti-American metropolitan people, which there is a lot of in the Ottawa area, Toronto area, Montreal area, Vancouver area. It's not exactly like 30%, but Singh could end up grabbing up 5, 7, 8% more in some of these ridings simply because people find out that actually, yes, Donald Trump does want the Liberals to win, because of course he'd like to try and negotiate with, Mr. Burns, played by Gumby, who is Mark Carney, because that guy could probably get beaten by a shoe in a negotiation. Anyways, one more thing I want to cover, because an actual fan of the show sent this in, and I thought it was a great thing to play. That Carney rolled out this really cringy video today, like where Mike Myers endorses him or cuts some campaign video, and this guy noted that Mike Myers has been a pretty massive political hack even since 2015. He's not saving this fake patriotism act, being a outspoken patriotic liberal thing, not until recently because of the tariffs. No, he did this back in 2015.
Yes, it doesn't get more Canadian. It just doesn't get more Canadian than this. I think I have your full attention, Canada. Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Is there anything you'd like to say at this point?
Yes, there's lots I'd like to say. I love Canada, but the fact that it has a law banning outsiders from telling Canadians how to vote is one of the least Canadian things possible.
Sure.
Oh, and don't vote for Stephen Harper.
Exactly.
And by the way, do you know that comment was about how it doesn't feel very Canadian to not let outsiders tell you who to vote for? That's because Liberal leader at the time, Justin Trudeau, got an endorsement from Barack Obama. But then when Elon Musk and Trump say anything, you have these people bleeding from their eyes and ears about it. And they really don't like it now that Trump's saying to vote Liberal, but still. And then check out him trying to redo this entire thing with Mark Carney.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right.
These guys are so fake. These guys, and it goes without saying, are so Hollywood. And I'm including Mark Carney in that too. He literally launched his leadership campaign on Jon Stewart's The Daily Show in New York City. By the way, I'm going to make an entire video on this to revisit the issue because it keeps coming up. Pierre Poilievre is not going on Joe Rogan. He's not going on Patrick Bet-David. He's not going to go on Theo Vaughn or any of these people. Do you know why? Because why would he do that when the main issue of the election, at the moment at least, and I don't think it's going to stay the biggest issue because eventually everyone does start thinking about the economy, but when trade tensions and Trump are a big issue in many Canadians' minds, why would you go onto an extremely pro-Trump podcast in the United States? You already shouldn't be doing podcasts in the United States unless it's like 3 years before the election. And you can justify, I'm just talking to people about Canadian stuff, because we're already mad at Mark Carney for being such a Hollywood elite putz that he ended up announcing his candidacy on The Daily Show in New York City after a month before moving his business to New York City. The guy's a complete hack, so let's not step in it by repeating the same stupid mistakes as Mark Carney. And then again, the guy has the endorsement of Trump too, so why then appear on a pro-Trump podcast who is going to then ask you, so do you like Trump or do you not like Trump? It's a stupid question that you really don't need to be answering in an election where it doesn't matter. Should you be able to say if you like him or not? Maybe. I don't control how the political environment works, so let's just not deal with that and focus on specifically firing as much lead downrange on the Liberals when it comes to their terrible policies and corruption issues. By the way, Mark Carney was the guy advising on the economy for the last 5 years, and now he's pretending that he's totally changed and he's a much more moderate conservative figure. No, because he was the one doing all the crazy economic stuff for the last 5 years. Do you think Justin Trudeau, with his 3 brain cells, was putting together the fiscal plans? And do you think that Chrystia Freeland was brave enough to ever say no to Trudeau and Carney up until that very last second where she was trying to save her own reputation? Not a chance. They were implementing everything Carney suggested to the T because none of these people could be trusted to toast. And Mark Carney shouldn't be trusted either because he'll do something terrible with it, but he has the aggression to actually push his stupid ideas through. So anyways, that's it for me today, guys. Remember, again, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up with the coverage, and leave a comment. See you guys all later.